ladies and gentlemen, Gungans and droids across our beloved empire. It's great to be in the empire today, and it's great to see each and every one of you guys, but you know what's not great to see? This update that was blessed upon us today, and let me tell you, I was so heated today during our 3v3 Grand Arena stream. The level of incompetency in this game right now, it's at an all-time high, but hey, besides that, we have big updates coming to Star Wars Galaxies. In case you didn't notice, maybe you noticed during your Grand Arena run that, something feels a little bit different. Got some Conquest updates, Executor buffs, and the great nerf of 2021 happened officially today. But I just got to get something off my chest. I went on a long rant today in my stream today. I kind of already prefaced it a little bit, but there is just, I don't know whose bright idea it was, but they decided to release this update, not yesterday before Grand Arena attack phase started, or even before the defense setting phase. They decided to release this update with only 2 more hours left in Grand Arena because they couldn't wait 2 more hours to post an update. And what I mean in regards to this is a lot of people have been severely disadvantaged. There's a forum post thread going on right now, raging about this. Another great move. Couldn't you literally wait 2 hours for GAC to end? And then so major update implemented during the final 2 hours of GAC round that directly affects GAC. Great job, CG. I love how the moderators pretend not to know what's going on here. What they were referencing to, if you guys remember, during the road ahead, we were given a heads up in regards to the great nerfs that are going to happen to things like Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, General Anakin Skywalker, buffs to a variety of galactic legends, Darth Vader getting nerfed, Wat Tambor's weapon mod getting nerfed as well. We're going to spend tomorrow relearning all these characters, seeing what they are good for. But unfortunately for me, we literally had to relive Grand Arena with all these changes. And let me explain why. So our opponent here, for example, okay, they were able to do their Grand Arena earlier, which is fine. You know, do your Grand Arena earlier. But they updated the Grand Arena literally after my opponent already finished all their attacks and before I did all of my attacks. So my opponent went up against a gas that wasn't nearly as powerful as it was, a Darth Revan Malik team that wasn't nearly as powerful, an Executor that wasn't nearly as powerful, and Galactic Legends for that matter that weren't nearly as powerful. And then when I started my Grand Arena, they implemented all these changes, so it was much harder for my counters to work against General Anakin Skywalker or Darth Revan, or for that fact, Galactic Legends. I couldn't use Fracture up against Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. I don't know whose idea it was to release these changes mid-Grand where they could literally wait 2 hours and update at a more normal time like they normally did. So if you're someone else affected by this, just know that you aren't alone in this matter. And I was literally beyond sick. The level of communication and incompetency, there's no excuse for this. Absolutely no excuse. For their most competitive game mode in Galaxy of Heroes, to update the game with something so drastic as this? No excuses. Anyways, that's the first problem. You after buffs, nerfs, bad timing of the update right here, but we also got to talk about some other buffs that happened behind the scene. The Executor got its pretty significant buff. As we saw, literally within 1 day of the Executor release, developers were not happy with how the Executor was performing, so they did buff it, and these are pretty significant buffs that the Executor are getting. Firstly, Vader's bounty will stipulate at max rank that tank allies have 50% reduced damage from out of turn attacks, and that is meant to keep your Houndstooth alive as long as possible, making Vulture droids do less damage on assist, Negotiator doing less damage on assist, and especially Rebels, because Rebels, oddly enough, were very effective up against the Executor. All their attacks out of turns, well, that's going to really hurt the Rebellion now. But that's not the biggest buff. The biggest buff to the Executor is the Breach of Protocol abilities. Long story short, you no longer need Breach to call in the mass assist from the Bountyers. Before, we did a whole video on this, but one of the problems with the Executor is that it was too fast compared to the rest of its fleet. And as a result, the AI especially did not want to open up with Breach of Protocols, because before you only could call assists if there was a breach, but now they allow you to firstly dispel tenacity up, which is huge, and then you're able to call all bounty highlights to assist. But if there was breach, you're going to do extra damage to them. So big change right here, and I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like real quick on full auto. Basically now there's no reason under the sun why it should not open up with the AoE, because before it would only open up with the basic, and that was not a good place. Let's go ahead, we'll play that on full auto real quick. So Executor is going to get a huge buff, but of course they decided to do this after my opponent attack and input the change before I decided to do my Grand. So again, impeccable timing from Capital Games, but I'm gonna put on full auto so you can kind of see what it's looking like real quick. I mean, it might be a little bit different because we got breach all around the field right now, but in the situation where, let's say there was a Houndstooth in front of you that didn't have breach, that was taunting, well, it wouldn't open up the Mass Storm. So probably not the best example right here, but as you see, open up the Mass Storm, regardless if there is a breach or not on the other side of the field. So this fleet is really gonna start killing it out there, it seems like. So we're gonna do some more testing, see what counters this fleet, because that opening play makes a huge difference. Moving on, what else do we have besides Executor buffs, the great Nerfs of 2021, and all the GL buffs and all that fun stuff? Well, something positive out of this update right here. Assault battles are now simmable as long as you have it at 3 stars, which is a welcome change, because I'll be honest, I admitted on stream that unless there's mods in the lower tiers, I normally never get around. So I do the top 3 tiers, get my Zetas, get my relic materials, and I normally never get to the lower tiers unless there are some mods for me to farm. So that is, I think that's honestly the most positive change. Simming assault battles, and I guess on top of that, Conquest 7 is finally here. And I gotta give a special shout out to this post right over here on Reddit. I think it summarized it perfectly. We were gone way too long without a Conquest. Way too long without a Conquest in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. As we see right over here with this lovely post from Napkin B, Basque 3T. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. But Conquest being gone for this long, absolutely insane that we had a Conquest with gone this long. Relegate materials are going to be short, which causes more of a panic for farming things like the Lord Vader requirements out there. And it seems like they kind of delayed this Conquest specifically to get these nerfs and buffs inside of Star Wars Galaxy, which makes it seem like Conquest is going to be a lot more difficult. But that's not all. I'm not going to read this whole entire Reddit post. We have to read about this Conquest 7. I'm not going to read this entire thing. It's a lot of word vomit, but I'll make sure we highlight the most important things. Firstly, obviously, with this Conquest now brings the addition of Maul in Star Wars Galaxy. And if you're planning on maxing out Conquest, you're looking at probably 2 or 3 months, depending on the frequency of how they're going to release these next few Conquests here. But Maul has been added, which is obviously the big thing, but I don't think that was really the reason why they delayed this whole entire Conquest, like that Reddit post was kind of pointing out here. So new data discs, new consumables, new feats, fresh reward. But I think the biggest problem is, for some odd reason, they didn't like the fact that either people are bum rushing and finishing it early and then spending the next week kind of finishing up the final feats, or they maybe had a problem with a lot of free-to-play people being able to get the Razor Crest for free, being able to get Commander Sogatana for free. It was a hard mode. Yes, there was a challenge, but it was definitely manageable for people, even without Galactic Legends. And I think these buffs, these nerfs, and energy changes, which they're implementing, this is indeed going to be the most difficult Conquest we've had yet. So if you've beaten hard mode in the past, I don't know if that's a good indicator on whether or not you're going to beat this upcoming Conquest here. So their goal is that they're going to try to update Conquest every 3 months or so going forward, with this one being their most challenging one yet. And for some odd reason, I have to kind of read this. I always say, you know, they're probably not lying. They have a top 10 list on why they make a change, but they go with reason number 10 instead of reason number 1, which with reason number 1 being it's going to make more money for them. I just got to read this. This Conquest also seeks to address some of the issues we have seen in past events. I didn't think this was an issue. I thought it was great. But anyways, we designed Conquest as an event that players would engage over the course of 2 weeks. But we found that most players could rush through the event in the first few days and then went back to clean up a few feats afterwards. If you're a bum rushing it through day 1, most likely you're spending crysts anyways. That was the extent of their engagement for the entire 2 weeks, and there was little reason to continue playing the mode. Reason number 10 on the list. Let's keep moving on forward. Let's read what they're doing here. The first thing we considered was making battles harder, but that would have locked... I mean, you are making the battles harder. You just buffed the Galactic Legends and nerfed a lot of the non-Galactic Legends. But anyways, that's not what they did, and it didn't address this long-term issue. Instead of increasing the difficulty of the encounters, nodes will now cost more energy to battle, and there's a bigger focus on completing a variety of new feats. While the time needed to complete Conquest will increase, we want to begin to offset this by reducing the time commitment in other parts of the game. As part of the update with Conquest, and we are making Assault Battle symbol, as we read, and they're going to be making the Heroic Sith Raid symbol in the near future if your guild has met certain requirements. So it is now going to become more costly to do your Conquest in terms of energy. And as we already know, they mentioned this in the Road Ahead blog post, they're changing how you're going to swap out data discs from Conquest tickets to energy, which was a welcome change. I still welcome it to this day, but now it seems like the reason why they're doing these energy changes is because now they're making energy a little bit more important to swap out data discs. And if they're increasing the cost of energy for nodes to do the actual battles, it's going to make it a little bit more pricey then to swap out your data disk. And usually what this means, since you could refresh energies, it's going to be a way for them to make you spend your crystals and maybe potentially spend some money out there. So you're kind of getting dinged in several areas as a result of energy becoming a lot more valuable in the game, because you couldn't really wail on swapping data discs before, because Conquest tickets, you couldn't quite wail on them at all. Now you can wail on swapping data discs. You're going to wail on trying to beat the nodes. And if you don't get 3 stars, you're going to spend some serious energy to try to 3-star those nodes down the road. So that's kind of the biggest thing to point out here. And furthermore, with Conquest, they're going to be doing mid-level bosses. So usually you do a whole run, you hit a boss at the very end. Now there's going to be a mid-level boss. As we see right here, you can kind of see in Sector 1, there's a Padme after the first few steps, but it's not the finish line. You still got several waves to go before you get to the final boss inside of it. And on top of that, we're getting new consumables, which is kind of interesting. They seem to be more specified for certain factions, for example, Resistance, Scoundrels, Separatists, and Sith. You can get consumables to really bolster those things, whereas really consumables have been more of a general type of buff for any type of faction use. Now we're going to get more specified ones. Consumables honestly have not been utilized much, but maybe with this increased difficulty, nerfing your characters, buffing the characters, they might start encouraging some more consumables, and you could wail on those. I think that's probably was something that their data was showing, is that people weren't engaging much with the consumables, and people weren't swapping data discs enough because they were just too expensive with the Conquest tickets. And here we go. We got a couple of data discs. We got defensive formation. We got quick reflexes. We got booming voice, which is coming back, and caustic recurrence. Unfortunately, no deployable cooling systems is coming back, and the developers do note that it is not coming back, unfortunately. Sorry, deployable cooling systems, you didn't make the cut. I love that one. I felt like that made the game something really special. Felt like it took a little bit of the Conquest magic out. So that's pretty much the main stuff you got to know about Conquest. More bosses, and I really felt like it was intentional that they were holding off on the Conquest 7, and they wanted to make sure to get the nerfs out beforehand to make this more difficult, and then those energy increases happening as well, making it more challenging to clear through. I have a feeling, unless you're having a hard time, unless you're doing very well and you're getting perfect 3 stars, if you were getting max crates before, it might be a little bit more difficult this time. I don't want to kill hope. We got to wait and see, but just from the nerfs, the buffs, the energy changes, I think we're in for a little bit of a doozy for this upcoming Conquest season, and hopefully Maul's going to be worth it in the end. But that's going to wrap it up right there. Not a lot of positives in this update. Poor timing with the update, and really just getting those assault battle symbol, heroic Sith rate symbol, and just the fact that Conquest is coming back is really the only positives that I can really pull out right now. But man, I will tell you this, I was flaming hot and heated earlier today. Just literally 2 more hours. The most competitive and one of the most important game modes, where you need to maintain the integrity, the competitive spirit, and you literally dismantled it, and people are losing ground just because they have to play it later on the day. Oh, rough day for Galaxy of Heroes, but you guys let me know. Let me know if you found some more positives that maybe I'm not picking up. Let me know if maybe you were boned by these random updates that happened mid Grand Arena week. Hopefully we got some more happy stuff to talk around. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to be testing out the Executor and all these other buffs and nerfs. What is Galaxy Heroes going to look like on the way out of here? But on the way out of here, I do want to let you know, I appreciate you guys coming out. Leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today.